Hi, how are you? Okay, for some reason I tried this again today, and for the first time it didn't want to do and freeze up and all that kind of stuff. But I'm bringing to you today a recent topic that I was privy to. This was a webinar that Senator Mark Warner, former governor of Virginia, was participating in by the German Marshall Fund. It was called the Geopolitics of Technology. Now, I've put all the links that you will need in the description. So be sure to go to the description to get those links. You'll have access to the entire talk, as well as all the documentations, as well as some of the articles that in media sources that will help connect some of the dots for you. But the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because this is actually another backdoor into attacking our free speech as citizens, not just here in America, because the German Marshall Fund has branches all over the world. So this is another one of those global grabs at our free speech. And why would that be going on, do you think? Well, why do you think? Because if we have free speech, then we're going to be alarming others as to what our government is doing to us. And since this involves more than one government, what our governments, plural, are doing to us. So I just wanted to go over some of the observations that I had from the YouTube video, and then I want to get into the Civic Information Handbook that is tied to all this as well. Now, before Senator Mark Warren put on this particular talk, he was bragging about the fact that 4 years before that, he had launched the German Marshall Fund's technical program, because after all, his background is in technology. Well, one of the links that I have for you will be his link to who owns him, and a lot of big tech companies do own him as well. He also will share with you that we've had an upended economy because COVID was able to expose how fragile our supply chains were. He also is the chair of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, and that's at not just the U.S. level, but of course with all the other nations that we have technology agreements with. All right. He also bragged on the fact that he steered the conversation on the Russian involvement in the 2016 election. And if you go and you look at some of the factual research that's out there, in fact, there's a book written by a former Russian who came to America. Her name is Rebecca, and I'm sorry I don't remember her last name. But she wrote the book Putin's Playbook, and she very much tells you, based on all her intelligence and research, that the Russian involvement in the 2016 election is a distraction to actually what is going on, not just in America, but everywhere. So you want to keep that kind of thing in mind as well. Now, no, I didn't put a link into Rebecca's book, but you can find that on Amazon. I found mine at an Ollie's discount store for like $4. So anyway, let's keep going. It was also shared that a lot of what is going on is with technology is showing us that we're having incremental changes when we need paradigm shifts. Now let's think about this for just a minute. Incremental changes, this is something like, okay, I just put the pot of frogs on to boil, and I'm going to turn that heat up very, very slowly. A paradigm shift takes massive moves at once to put in change. And of course, with technology going with the way the Bitcoin, the blockchain, and the artificial intelligence, which is seeking to overtake everything, this is huge. He went on to say that, well, the old system has died. We're not sure what's going to replace it, but we need to make a roadmap. All right. It was also brought up that there is a particular bill that he is so proud of. It's called the CHIPS Act, and I've included that in the resources for you. 2021, we saw a law that was for the IoT, or the Internet of Things, which connects to the artificial intelligence as well. We know that he was saying, that is Senator Warren was saying in the video, that Congress's response to everything that's been going on, especially all the cyber hacks, has been absolutely pitiful. Well, he's part of Congress. So is he saying that his own efforts into this are pitiful? We need to latch on to that. All right, let's keep going. It said that there are 3 models of change. One is that CHIPS Act, because after all, it's going to take billions of dollars to solve yet another problem that we the people have, supposedly. It's also going to impact our tax code changes, again, to the tune of billions of dollars. So why would we need to be concerned about that? Because anytime the federal government talks about tax changes, it is not about helping out you and I or other nations. It's about how to pad their backside. Warner also claimed that he was really good with Goldman Sachs and all their German clients. So don't lose this. It's not all the Russians' fault. It's not all the Germans' fault, or even the Chinese. Because let's think about it. America is part of the United Nations. Therefore, we have enemies among our nation who are just as bad as these ones they want to point fingers at. And that's what Warner and his hosts were doing throughout this entire presentation. They were all about, hey, look at this country, look at that country, look at the other country, all the while never pointing back at what Americans are doing to each other in the name of AI and technology and all this interference. I mean, come on, how stupid does he think we are? How stupid does our government assume that we are? So, and here's an example of Warner's way that he's so working both sides of the aisle in Congress and in DC and who knows elsewhere. When you change language, in other words, he's saying here, well, instead of using green technology, I'll just use advanced technology, because after all, I can gain more bipartisan support. In other words, I could know more people if I use just the right words. And we've seen our governments across the world do this for decades to us. And that's why you have some of the articles and videos included in some of the resources for this, so that you can see those conversations as well. One of them is going to be where my former teammate and I, Suzanne Hamner, on the Liberty Bells, went over what was called the TikTok bill. It was all about how it was supposed to rein in Chinese-owned data companies and all the things that are going on there. And what we were able to find is that, no, it wasn't about TikTok at all. It was about sequestering our free speech. So the Civic Information Handbook that was also brought up during this particular YouTube video, I have a printed off copy right here, and if you can see the image, you see all those dots that are interconnected. Now this is a 38-page document, and if this particular video gets taken down, you're going to know why. It's because of this particular document. All right, this was just published by the German Marshall Fund, and it used 2 people from German Marshall, but it also used the University of North Carolina's Center for Information Technology and Public Life. Now that's based out of Chapel Hill, and if you're from North Carolina, you know exactly where that is. It's near Raleigh, and if you're not from North Carolina, Raleigh is our capital, and UNC Chapel Hill is the hub of the UNC public university system. Now, every one of the public universities in the North Carolina system participated in this particular document, as well as many, many other higher education institutes, not only here in America, but across the world. So this is not just an American civic handbook. This is a everybody on the same page for the same reason handbook to be shared globally. Okay, this center is in charge of using technology tools for politics, democracy, and equality. Now, democracy and equality are paired together on the website for this Center for Information Technology and Public Life. They also want to help wipe out misinformation, disinformation, because it's so harmful for good civic duties, as well as go after our communications and infrastructure. All right, the CITAP, or CITAP as it's called, notices that we have unequal information systems, and because everything needs to be streamlined, we have to have equality everywhere, even in our information systems, because let's face it, you can't be data tracked if you're somehow standing out in some way that the technology really can't understand. So those would cover race, ethnics, class, gender, and sexuality. Now, let's go on to say that the particular entity, or CTAP, that helped collaborate this Civic Handbook for the world wants us to be able to understand that technology in society needs to be using prioritized questions, not for we the people, but for those in power and for those institutions in power to manage us precisely and what we say. So the equality and justice will impact culture. And you don't need to necessarily hang out in education to know that a culture change is part of that paradigm shift. So let's move on. Here is a list in no particular order of the plethora of higher learning institutions or higher education colleges and universities. All right, the Electoral Integrity Project from the Tinker Field Research at Indiana University, Goethe University in Frankfurt, Germany, McMaster University, Queen's University at Kingston in the United Kingdom, Arizona State, the University of Delaware, UNC Greensboro, Georgia Tech, the University of Costa Rica, that's in South America, Notre Dame University, the University of Iowa, Vanderbilt University, the University of Coimbra, Florida International University, the Hertie Schools Center of International Security in Berlin, Boston College, Northwest University, the University of Kentucky, Cornell University, Texas A&M, also American University, the University of Virginia, West Virginia University as well. We have a plethora of media platforms who are also represented in this particular civic guide as well. Too many to mention, but a lot of them will be considered mainstream media. George Washington University, Virginia Commonwealth University. All right, now this is a foreign word. I'm going to spell it JAWAHARLALNEHRU University. The University of Johannesburg, that's over in Africa. Mellon University, the University of Leeds, Carnegie Mellon University. Then there's the University of Leeds, UNC Law School, Harvard, Elon University, Yale, Global Studies at UNC Charlotte, the University of Pennsylvania, UNC Charlotte, North Carolina Central University, Appalachian State, La Jolla University, Methodist University, the University of Ottawa, that's in Canada, Oxford, which is in the United Kingdom, Reuters at Oxford. We also have the University of Zagreb in Croatia. We have the University of Patras, the University of Piraeus. We have the University of Florida, East Tennessee University, King College, Louisiana State University, South Illinois University, New York University Steinhardt, the University of Kansas, the University of Texas at Austin. We have Brown University, UC Berkeley, that's in California. We have the University of Maryland, the University of Washington, the University of Southern California, the University of Pittsburgh, CRISTIANIA University College, the University of Oslo, which we know is in Norway, or Denmark, I believe. We have Duke University, the University of Missouri. We have the University of Georgia, Rutgers University, Kennesaw State, which is in Georgia, Columbia University, Princeton University, the University of Illinois, Temple University, Northeast University, the University of Wisconsin, and those, my friends, are all not only the higher education institutions, but all the related media sources that go with them. And where I found that information is if you go on the CTAP website and you look at affiliates. There you will find all the people with all these higher education or media affiliations. So, media and civics. Oh, okay, so we're going to go after misinformation, aren't we? All right, well, it says here that the guide is all about using modern network information to work across an entire ecosystem using on and offline tactics, because information campaigns use radio, mail, email, print media, television, and face-to-face communication. And it's going on to tell you who defines misinformation and disinformation. And I've never heard of these people, and maybe if you have, you could comment as to who they are and how they got to be the ones who defined what mis and disinformation are, because last I knew the dictionary did a really good job of that. Claire Wardle and HOSSEINDERAKHSHAN. So it looks like Claire Wardle and Hosan Darashan. Okay, they're the ones who are, according to CTAP's information, defining misinformation and disinformation. And here's the thing, why can't we just call it lies? Why do we have to put such stupid fancy words on something that's as basic as lying? Or, assumptions. All right, according to Wardle and Darkashan, misinformation is information that is false but not created with the intention of causing harm. Disinformation is information that is false and deliberately created to harm a person, social group, organization, or country. And they go on to define malinformation. New one. Information that is based in reality but used to inflict harm on a person, organization, or a country. This is the only one that gives an example. Leaks, harassment, and hate speech. All again part of our free speech. And we are not, America's not the only country that has free speech. So, let's move on. All right. Now, all the information, like I said, for those collaborators and affiliates will be at citap.unc.edu. Again, that's citap.unc.edu. All right, here's the introduction to the Civic Information Handbook, because we have to know what we're talking about, right? In our current online world, civic information, that is important information to participate in a democracy. Hello, did anyone remember America is a constitutional republic? Is too often drowned out by viral falsehoods, including conspiracy theories. Now, some of the public-private partnerships that fund this CTAP, you're going to love. Every one of them can be found in the Common Core machine, and that includes global entities as well. The Knight Foundation, Luminate, the William and Flora Hewlett Fund, as well as the Siegel Family Endowment, the Carnegie Corporation, the Carnegie Fellowship, the Social Science Research Council, and Facebook. All right, not everyone deserves to be put in the same bucket as it's all viral falsehood, all conspiracy theories. There are people out there, myself included, who are being branded as misinformation or disinformation people when we are absolutely telling you the truth. Now, let's go on, because this introduction gets even better. As a result of all this particular manipulation that's going on and in the information environment, there has to be some sort of leverage by the system. And let's think about physics. Anytime you have leverage, there's going to be an action. And leverage usually in this context means it's leveraged against we the people, not the system. So as a result, today's civic leaders must play a more active role in amplifying fact-based information. Now here is the person that this whole guide is basing fact-based information examples off of. I hope you are ready for this because I about fell over when I read this. As Dr. Anthony Fauci said, we gotta be out there. Scientists and general public and those who understand the facts, talking about true and correct information. Hello? You're going to say that civic leaders need to be more active in fact-based information, and then you go and cite a corrupt scientist? Do you see where this is leading? And this guide gets even worse. Okay, and I believe that I included the link to the particular Civic Handbook so that you can get it. If not, in the YouTube video, they do reference it. I do believe that that link will be there as well. But if I didn't include it and you want to print it out, which I urge you to do, let me know in the comments and I will be sure and post that link for you. Okay? All right. So we have to make sure the playing field is even. So we're going to use it to enforce civil and human rights laws, which, well, we know that human rights are something that the United Nations has popped up with. Because if you look at the individual countries, the civil rights of every citizen in said country was already protected. Okay, now it goes on to tell you that policymakers should be in charge of this. People, let's remember, policymakers are not lawmakers. Policymakers are those who interpret the laws that are made by the lawmakers. And depending on what agenda the policy think tank has as to what policy will be dreamed up. So the handbook aims to do two things: educate civic information providers about coordinated deceptive campaigns, and number two, to serve as a resource on how to flood zones with trustworthy civic information. This very definitely plays right into a recent talk that I gave where mind space was concerned, and that's one of the videos that I've linked for you in the description. Is that mind space was supposedly passed off as a UK published and researched document, but a lot of the research came from the United States, and at least 4 other countries are using it, and it's a governmental way to use propaganda to get us to change to social behaviors that are acceptable to our government. Okay? All right, this particular one goes on to tell you that, you know, there's a lot of deceptive information out there, like some Facebook pages or some Twitter accounts or Instagrams or TikTok profiles. And they really like to do non-political attractive content to draw you in. And it gives you pictures, examples of cute cats, okay? It goes on to tell you that, you know, this is using data mining. Well, duh, we know this. But this is going into detail on how to use that data mining through media messages in the name of wiping out misinformation to get you hooked into more data mining in supposedly safe and civic ways. Okay? Now, on page 5, and this was a dead giveaway to the link to MindSpace, the third word in the first sentence: the most salient and prominent online conspiracy theories rarely go viral on their own. The third word was salient. The S in MindSpace is salient because governments know to have a groomed people and a conforming people, you have to go after their saliency. All right, I'm going to move on from there. Okay, Again, this lumps everybody into one or two buckets when one or two buckets does not begin to cover the differences of us. All right, I'm going below an image here that uses 4 prongs to go into how to run a great information campaign. Well, let's remember, it can be used for us and it can be used against us. And we can also turn the tables and use it in fighting back. And number 1, build your pipeline. Number 2, bringing the narrative to life. Number 3, flooding the zone. And number 4, activation. So below that particular image, it tells us here, successful network information campaigns begin by building massive digital audiences, often through large public accounts and partisan opinion-oriented outlets. Let's remember that often is not always, or is it definitive? Again, we are so different that this seeks to lump us into one or two buckets when that really is not the case at all. Okay, so it goes on to tell us here, manipulated and misattributed content is deceptive by its very own definition. Influencers, hashtags, and message testing that can be used for civic information campaigns. Well, folks, what better way to go after a government agenda than to clothe it as a civic information campaign? All right, this goes on to tell us here that influencers are also very effective when it comes to good civic information. And who do they pick on? Anti-vaxxer influencers, such as Joseph Mercola. And again, it gives you a picture of the ad campaign. Sorry, it's not coming through. Really? We're going to harp on Anthony Fauci, then we're going to go after the anti-vaxxers. Do you see the vein in which this is going? Anybody with credible truth is going to be lumped into the bucket that somehow you're maligning information, you're lying about information, or you really don't mean to spread all that, do you? All right, let's move on. This goes on to tell us here. Oh, they mentioned the Daily Wire and the Tao Center for Digital Journalism at Columbia's Journalism School has discovered a network of pink slime news sites that look like independent local newspapers, which are run by political operatives. Do you think that the government is somehow doing the same thing, only on the other side? Of course they are. And it's not just our government. Remember, the affiliates and the collaborators and the funders are all over the globe. This is not meant for one nation. So why is Senator Mark Warner out of Virginia helping hawk this kind of BS and horse hockey? He's going to gain something from it. And we're going to lose free speech in the process. I hope you see that. All right. It goes on to show us, oh, here's another thing that we need to look at. Kernels of truth. These are cherry-picked details from a reputable source, such as an article from a responsible journalism outlet, a court filing, a personal anecdote, or a leak that is presented with insufficient or misleading context. Okay, a personal anecdote is going to be truthful for that person, but it can't be used as a blanket truth. And reputable sources, such as articles from responsible journalism outlets, who do you think owns the mainstream media? The same 6 companies. How is that going to be responsible journalism? It can't be. But we're supposed to trust that over someone's document showing the government's use of attacking your free speech against you and label them as the problem. And trust me, these will be roped into those sustainable development goals as well. Okay? Stop the steal. Well, you know, that has an agenda all its own, because we know that our elections in America are not by we the people. They are selections that are made by groups of political leaders from across the globe. So the whole argument about we the people and having rights to vote is very compromised by that. Okay, let's keep going. every single thing that I found in this particular civic information guidebook that's globally going to apply, they're taking new buzz phrases for fallacies, like as in the red herring. And if people don't know what the red herring is, that is where, oh, look, squirrel, all the while you're doing something over here that we need to know about. That's a good one the government loves to look at. If you've ever heard of the resource, The Fallacy Detectives, I would strongly urge you to get into that, because this entire Civic Handbook is laced with things that are those fallacies, but dressed up with new words, and then tell you how to use them to attack your free will of thought as well as your free speech. Now, I could go on, but I think I've said enough. I just wanted to bring this to your attention because this is a huge attack if this goes through. And it's not going to be an if, it's probably already in the works, because by the time we get documents like this, there's already been so much political handshaking behind our backs that it's already put into place. So what can we do to fight back? Well, first of all, let's use those tactics that they've come up and twist it and turn it back on them. So let's build our message, build our audience, get the word out there, and let's band together, because the speech that we have to lose will mute our voices when it comes to sharing information, so that we can stand up and fight together against a system that cares nothing about us, wants to destroy our family and take away our freedom of thought, freedom of speech, and thus our free will. I don't care if you live in America or you know someone who lives in another nation. This is an across the globe attack on our free speech connected to government propaganda to force us into great conformity, to be great minions for their agenda, not to live our free life. Got questions? info@commoncorediva.com. I'll be happy to come and speak to your group. Let's get that together, work out the logistics, and I will be happy to see you. Share this. This is vital information, and thank you so much for tuning in. commoncorediva.com/donate if you wish to offset any of the research that I do for you, because I want you to be armed so that you can protect your family, your personal liberties, and your civil right to a free speech.